Before I begin, I would like to address the families of the hostages, our brothers and sisters. Last night, I convened the government in order to approve the first stage in the deal for the return of the hostages. Since the beginning of the war, I have not stopped thinking about them, and I do not stop thinking about you, the families. I've met with you. I heard from you everything you're going through. I heard from you about this ongoing nightmare, the torment of uncertainty and the concern that knows no boundaries. And when I meet with you, you always attach the families of the pictures of your loved ones to your chest, to your heart. And my colleagues and I, we look at each and every picture. These pictures are a call for action. Since the outbreak of the war, we are indeed taking action constantly in order to bring them back home, to bring them all back home. And when I say all, I mean all of them. And that includes Ron and Adar and Abera and Hisham. We've defined the goals of this war very clearly: to obliterate Hamas, to release our hostages, and to guarantee that the day after Hamas, Gaza will no longer pose a threat on Israel. We said that we will do everything we can in order to create the conditions for releasing the hostages. And this is what has happened. What paved the way for this deal is a combination of two great efforts. The first effort is massive military pressure, incessant pressure that we exert on Hamas. And I would like to praise the IDF and the ISA for their tremendous activities in order to create this pressure. The second effort is the great diplomatic effort and pressure that we're exerting for the release of the hostages. We were engaged in a very tough negotiations. We were very firm about it. And I just spoke with President Biden a few minutes ago, and I thanked him for everything he did in order to improve the outline of the deal. And indeed, such an improvement was achieved. The combination of the military effort and the diplomatic effort, this is what made the conditions ready for the release of the hostages. And I believe that this combination will enable the return of more hostages in the next stages. The current outline will not include the release of murderers, and it does include the agreement of representatives of the Red Cross for their visits to the hostages and bringing medicines to them. And I've heard that the Red Cross says that they haven't heard about it, but this is the explicit item in the deal. The Red Cross will be allowed to visit the hostages and give them any medicine that they need. And I do expect of the Red Cross to do their job. Citizens of Israel, as the Prime Minister of Israel, I often find myself in a position in which I need to make very difficult decisions between a hard choice and an even harder one. And that is the case with the release of the hostages. The effort to bring them all back home continues constantly. And at this point in time, we can achieve the release of babies and children, mothers and women with a sword literally at their neck. This is the edict of releasing hostages, and we have a great moral imperative to bring to their release. In the history of the State of Israel, whenever it was possible, we released hostages through a military campaign, and we did that even though we paid a heavy price. It happened at Sabena, the Savoy Hotel, and at Antebbe, and it even happened in this war just a few weeks ago when we released in a very bold military operation the soldier Ori Megidish, but that's not always possible. And this is why we are not waiting. We are seizing each and every opportunity to release our hostages, because to bring them back home is a sacred mission. The IDF and the entire security establishment support this deal, and they've clarified time and again yesterday in the government meeting that the safety of our forces will be guaranteed during the pause, the ceasefire, and during this time the IDF will prepare for the continuation of the war. In the wee hours of the morning, the government reached its decision, and I wholeheartedly believe, along with my fellow ministers, that this is the right decision. I'd like to thank all my peers for joining me on this decision. Minister of Defense Gallant, Minister Gantz, the Chief of General Staff Herzi Halevi, the Director of the Mossad Dadi Barnea, the Director of the ISA Ronen Bar, Major General in Reserves Nitzan Alof, and Brigadier General in Reserves Gal Hirsch, all the people who have helped and who have acted in order to bring about this release, as well as all the ministers. Citizens of Israel, I wish to be clear. The war continues. The war continues. And we are going to continue with this war until we achieve all of our goals to bring back all of our hostages, to obliterate Hamas, and to ensure that the day after Hamas, there won't be any agent, any organization that rules Hamas which advocates terrorism, participates in terrorism, and educates for terrorism. We are going to bring back safety and security both to the north of Israel and to the south of Israel. We are winning, and we are going to continue to fight until we reach absolute victory. And we are doing so thanks to the courage of our brave troops and thanks to the sacrifice of our sons and daughters, the great heroes of this country. And I always remember this victory, this triumph comes with a heavy price. Our soldiers that are risking their lives for all of us, our hero soldiers who were killed in order to protect our home. This evening, I spoke with Avichai and Tali Barazani. Their son Dvir from the paratroopers brigade was killed in action this week in Gaza, in the battle zone in Gaza. I've known Avishai for many years. He comes from the security establishment, and he told me that he wrote to his son Dvir, as you go to fight Hamas, remember that there are 400 Israeli citizens who were murdered brutally by a terrible enemy. They are all standing behind you. Avichai and Tali had asked me, and all the bereft parents that I spoke with asked for the same thing. Please carry this through until you reach absolute victory. Citizens of Israel, I stand here this evening in order to say something very clear to you. This is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to fight together, and God willing, together we will win.